Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kristen Nicole Mann's YouTube and podcast. I have both going on at the same time. So I am excited to bring you what I have gotten today to teach you all, not teach you in a way of arrogance, because this is something that I still deal with. And I just wanted to share. God's kind of giving me that nudge to share certain things. So the title of this is Who or What Stole Your Identity? What is stealing your identity? And when we think about identity, there's a lot of talk of, there's this commercial, right? And it's for YouTube specifically, and it talks about what was typed in YouTube the most this year. It was either YouTube or Google, but what was typed the most this past year was "Can I change?" Isn't that amazing how many people are actually like thinking about change personally, internally now versus like trying to change their exterior? And if you are a person that's still trying to change your exterior versus your interior, this is probably for you, because I want you to understand that you have to make changes on the inside before you start trying to change the outside. It's just like if we were to buy a new house and say, you want to do all these changes on the outside of the house, but the inside still looks like really horrible. It looks like crap. It's dust everywhere, dirt everywhere, and you're just concerned about the exterior. So you're concerned about the shutters, taking the shutters off, painting new, the siding, replacing the siding, painting new paint over the bricks, and then the inside just still looks horrible. So where do you live mainly? Do you live on the outside of the house, or do you live on the inside of the house? So you want to really think about this year, the internal work, like the soul work. And I don't usually talk like this. So if you don't know me, I'm going to introduce myself and give you a little background of who I used to be and who I am now. And so I started my podcast in 2018, and it was called something else. I think it was called One Versatile Devotion. And then it changed to Carefully Created. And now it's the No or Never, AKA the Now or Never. And, I might change it back to Carefully Created. But, anyways, I started that podcast out of like just wanting to talk, right? And I wanted to have conversation about the topics that I had to grow in. And I was trying to do all of these talks and podcasts and all of these things without changing internally. And so while I was doing the podcast, I was having a really good track record or side hustle, career, whatever you want to call it, with artistry. So I was, doing my thing, being an artist, visual artist per se, not singing, but painting. And I was really doing really good with it. And I had a lot of uh, just articles, interviews, just a lot that went with that. I was on TV a lot. And so I got to experience, thankfully, the success and what success really meant. But all of that was really not built on a good foundation. There was a little bit cracks, in the foundation that I didn't recognize. It's almost like when you have, I looked up long time ago, like you can have cracks in your teeth, like hairline cracks that you don't recognize. It's not obvious, but when you look in the light, when a light actually shines on it, you can see like the hairline cracks especially in your front teeth. And that's how it was for me. Like I had hairline cracks that could be detrimental, depending on the pressure that was placed on these cracks. It could have fell apart. And the way that it fell apart was, it's like God really gave me a cushion because it fell apart. I fell apart because I didn't work on the interior. I decided to just keep the exterior. And if you look back on my YouTube page, I have a testimony about how I got an abortion through all that. And that was, I mean, that was like the turning point, because I was turning into this person that I was trying to make shift and build myself without God in the mix. And so God had to say, hold up, let me bring you down, let me humble you, not to take away anything good. He still allowed me to make some kind of money with my gifting, but I was starting to make that my identity. I was starting to make all these things that I wanted to do, the podcast, the art, the you name it, being a business person. I was starting to make all that my identity, and that wasn't really my true identity. And I was surprised, because you don't recognize how ingrained you are with these material things, how ingrained you are with the image of what things look like, and internally you're like dying, like you're not even healthy on the inside. It's like they say with skinny people. My best friend is really skinny, but she she wasn't healthy at one point, and you would think that she was, looking right at her, because she wasn't out here sloppy looking. She wasn't trying to she didn't look like she was sick internally, but she didn't feel good at one point in her life, and she made changes. So today I'm talking about 3 identity blockers that is blocking you from really knowing who you are and how you were created, and how we are not supposed to make shift in identity, but we are supposed to operate in the identity of God. And if you go back on my podcast episodes, you will see the transformation in real time, because I would talk about everything, but looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have stayed consistent so people could understand the transition a little bit better. Shout out to Tim Ross, because he is killing it with his podcast. He used to be a pastor, and now he's a full-blown, full-time podcaster. And I can really relate to his transition, because God will tell you, like, you need to leave this alone because I have bigger. But that bigger sometimes looks like major change that you don't want to make at the time. You're like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. So we have to be careful of like trying to do our own thing. And if you're not a believer in God, I hope that you find God through this episode, because without him, life is boring. Without him, like, life is different. And so the 3 identity blockers. So first, we're going to play on all of what you probably heard before, but you haven't heard it probably in this way. So the first identity blocker is hacking. The first identity blocker is hacking. That's HACKING if you're writing notes. And that is the gaining of unauthorized access to data in a system. And so there's a saying that came from my mentor that women, if you're not a woman, you're a man, you'll relate. There's a saying that she said that women are whole systems. Women are whole systems. And when she said that, it pierced my soul, because I was like, wow, I didn't even think of like me in that way. And so when it comes to the hacking part, who are you allowing? And 9 times out of 10 is the enemy. You're probably allowing the enemy to gain access, unauthorized access to data in your system. So what does that look like? you are allowing him to play with your mind, your thoughts. You're allowing him to interfere with things that you could be creating in your idle time. So you allow yourself to maybe gravitate towards, and I'm bad at this too sometimes, gravitate towards social media, gravitate towards everybody else's business. All those things gravitate you away from what you are actually supposed to be doing, which is God's work. But we allow unauthorized access through our eyes, our ears, even sometimes our mouth, our nose. Like, who are you allowing unauthorized access to? And it could be a person. See, the thing is, the enemy looks like a person. Let's start there. Looks like a person, not necessarily like what you see in the movies. And if you notice, in the movies, all the movies with that character that's like sly, sneaky snake, that's the enemy. That's the character. They look like regular people, right? But they're not. They're actually operating with a different motive in mind. And so that's the first one, hacking. The second one is fraud. All right, so fraud means wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. What are you compromising to make money? This all goes with our identity, y'all. What are we compromising to make money? For me, I'll give you an example. When I was an artist, full time, I used to go to vendor shows. I used to vendor at these like all kinds of shows. But what I was always was a believer. But at the same time, some of these shows, y'all, they were really dark. Like dark people, operating in like satanic stuff. And I would think, okay, I can still be here because it doesn't matter. I'm doing God's work. I'm the light. I'm the. But I never really asked God, was I supposed to be there? I didn't ask him. I just kind of went because I was going off of I'm operating in my gift. And I made that my identity. So I thought it was right. I made it my identity. So I thought it was right. And then come to find out, like, y'all got to watch what environments y'all are in and what you're compromising yourself for in exchange of money. You might make the money, but at the end of the day, that money has no longevity to it because you compromise yourself. You compromise your beliefs. You compromise you as a person. Like, naturally, you probably wouldn't do that. So why do it now? Because you're so-called operating in your gift. Doesn't make sense. So we have to think about what deception, what are we allowing to be fraudulent in our lives? Like and for me, I was becoming this whole different person than who I really was made and created to be. And so the first one was hacking, second one was fraud. The third one is data breaches. Data breaches. It's a security violation in which sensitive, protected, or confidential data copied, transmitted, viewed, stolen, altered, or used by an individual unauthorized to do so. Who are you? When I read that, what are you allowing behind the scenes when you're working, doing God's work, or when you're doing God's work? I'll give you an example. You could be working on something and you're not done yet, and you tell a particular person that you feel like you're close to, but they may just be that monitoring spirit that is around you to take that data that you told them, like, hey girl, I'm working on a book, or hey girl, I'm working on, I'm always working, and meanwhile, they're on the other end typing, they're like, and that's their mind, though. They're taking in all the information and the data. And then next thing you know, you see this person doing a book just like yours. You see them doing an art show just like yours. You see them doing an event just like yours. And you're like, where did that come from? See, that happened to me before several times throughout like the years where I was like trying to be this person that God never intended me to be. I would run into a lot of these people that was data, they was breaching my data. So they were copying, they were transmitting, they were viewing, they were altering, and they were all using it for themselves, but never gotten permission from me. So we have to watch who's around us. This is what all this really tells me: the hacking, the fraud, the data breaches, it can be identity blockers. And what do these all have in common? What do you have to do in order to not have these? Change something. Change something. Say it with me. Change something. You start small. You start with little itty bitty changes. The other day I went live to talk about the butterfly effect. I've never heard that, y'all. By the way, never heard that before I went live the other day, and it just was in my spirit, like repeating itself. And it was like the butterfly effect, the butterfly effect. And I'm like, what is the butterfly effect? What is that? And come to find out, scientists use that to do their projects. Or there was this one scientist, I can't think of the name. It was a hard name too, but he actually was working on something pertaining to weather. And I remember them saying that he was like um rounding up a number that had a decimal in it, and it changed everything. And it was a small minor change, like where the decimal was, or the number just went up a little bit. And it was a small change, and it literally changed everything. And when I thought about the butterfly effect, I was like, we could take that, and it's also known in the psychology world. We can take that and we can make small changes in order for us to grow into the identity that God truly called us into. So we like to think we got to start big. Okay, I got to get rid of everything, and I got to have everything back in another way today. It doesn't happen like that. Just like I was saying with the house, like inside, you might have to just start getting rid of like maybe one thing over here, one thing over there. Every time the trash come, this is how I do. My trash comes on Tuesday, and it comes early in the morning. What I try to do is I try to have something that I need to throw away or let go of every time the trash comes. I mean, it could be this week, it was like clothes that I wore, didn't have nothing. They had stains on it. That's why I threw it away, because I'm like, y'all forgive me if you are a person that you don't waste nothing, but I just had to get rid of them. What they represented, what I went through in them, like I just wanted to get rid of them. And I had recently had replaced a lot of my wardrobe with newer clothes. And so I wanted to get rid of the old. I'm like, these gotta go, because every time I put them on, they'll remind me of where I was at, what I was doing, and it was depressing. So I started bagging them up, and Tuesday came and I let them go. And that's how we got to think of the small changes we got to make. I didn't let go of my whole house. I just went through my room, and I was like, oh, I'm getting rid of this, getting rid of that. And that's all we have to do is, do things like that. So, it's very important that we figure out what is needed. What do we need to we got to evaluate the small changes we got to make. And I'm personally excited for you. I'm excited for myself as well, because I will continue to make these small changes. But think about those 3 identity blockers today, and the rest of the year: hacking, fraud, and data breaches. Hacking: who's gaining unauthorized access to the data in your system within you. Fraud: wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. What are you compromising for? To get money or personal gain? Are you compromising yourself for that friendship that they want you to look a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way, and that's not really you, but you feel like you need these people to get ahead in life? No, you don't. Data breaches, a security violation in which sensitive, protected, or confidential data copied, transmitted, viewed, stolen, altered, or used by an individual unauthorized to do so. And who are we letting in that's not supposed to be there? So that could be a person, place, or thing too, because you could be going to like Wingstop and getting wings knowing that you're not supposed to be eating the wings every single other day, and that could be your identity blocker too. I'm just giving you examples outside of people because it's not always people. But the three common things you need to do for these is change something. Change something. All right. So we're acting immediately on that. And I hope that you learned something from this. I'm going to, just keep encouraging y'all because these are things that I went through and still going through. It doesn't mean that I've arrived, but I know from experience, I can tell you a little bit. So you can go to www.KristenNicoleMann.com and purchase journals, books, apparel, mugs, all that good stuff is there. You can also follow me on TikTok at Kristen Nicole Mann. And follow my YouTube, subscribe. I need more followers. But thank you to everyone who's watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye. See you next time.